Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the October 1st, 2018 Transportation Commission meeting. Our first agenda item is to approve minutes for August 6th, August 15th, and September 18th. I'm going to take these separately because not everybody was at those. So do I have a motion for the August 16th, or sorry, the August 6th meeting? Move approval.
Second.
Motion from Hulteen and second from May. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Anyone not there? Okay. So August 15th. Motion for August 15th study session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any abstentions? Abstention here.
Extension here.
3 abstentions? Who was the second on that one? Hurt?
Who are your abstentions?
What's up?
Who were your abstentions that you have?
May, Dylan, Payton?
Okay. All in it. Okay, so motion passes. I have already forgotten.
5-0.
Studies. September.
No. Motion by Schartz, seconded by Hurt. Okay. September 18th, study session.
Second.
That Evans seconded. Dylan made the motion. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions?
Abstention.
Abstention.
Hurt. Whole team. Got 3. Okay.
All right. General public comments. The public is allowed to speak on items and issues not scheduled on the regular agenda. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. The commission will not generally discuss or debate these items or make decisions on the items at this time. You're asked to come to the microphone, sign in, state your name and address, and please address all comments to the commission. If you are here to speak about something on the agenda, then there's a public comment session after each item. So any general public comments on things not on the agenda? Okay. Number 3, the 6th and Tennessee right turn lane field check plans.
John Marburger with staff. This project is a partnership with the Kansas DOT, and I have a couple gentlemen, Michael Stewart and Ed Tarpey from PEC Consultants, who was selected to develop the project plans. So field check's about 50% of the way complete, so it's a good opportunity to know enough about the project to answer some questions, but not be so solidified in the details as to not be able to take input. So that's why we're here tonight, is to gain feedback and see if there's any concerns or great ideas, or you think things are just fine. I like that too. So I'll turn things over to PEC.
There.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Transportation Commission. So this slide here shows an aerial photo of the general project limits. So 6th Street is where the improvements are going to occur from, and then as you can see, from Ohio Street to Tennessee Street. So this is the main area. The main improvements for the project is the widening of 6th Street, widening it to the south to add a right turn lane onto Tennessee. And you can see that there is sort of a partial lane already there on the south side. So there's a 5-lane section already, plus parking, some room for parking. So the widening won't be an entire lane. It'll be enough to use some of that parking and then widen a little bit to have enough room for a 6th lane to turn. And then there'll be a few other improvements that'll go along with it that we're going to touch on this evening. This is just another view of the of 6th Street. This is looking east, and you can see we've got, as I mentioned a minute ago, it's widened for existing parking on 6th Street, so it's already a little bit wider than it needs to be. And but you can also imagine from this picture what it's going to look like. That curb is we're proposing moving that curb to the south 6 feet. So if you can picture what that curb will look like, moved 6 feet over, and then having that extra pavement in there. This is kind of a similar view than we had a minute ago with the aerial photo. The same area, same limits. We've got the Ohio intersection shown on kind of on the left half of the screen, and then the Tennessee intersection on the right half of the screen. So, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be widening by moving that curb line. We're proposing to move that curb line to the south 6 feet, and then to give us room for the 6 lanes we'd like to have for the right turn lane. In addition to the widening of the pavement at the intersection of Ohio Street on the south leg, we're proposing, since we'll have everything torn up there anyway, proposing to put a concrete valley gutter in, crossing the intersection from west to east to improve the drainage issues that are at that intersection. There's some puddling that occurs, and so we're going to improve that area by adding a concrete valley gutter. Now, to the south of that concrete valley gutter, the existing brick pavement starts about 25 feet or so south of that valley gutter. So we could, as you can see, we're showing replacing some pavement on Ohio Street. One option we could think about is instead of just going back and replacing that asphalt, we could replace it with brick, so that everything south of the valley gutter would be brick to match the brick that's already there. Just that's an option to consider. Then if you go to if you look on the east intersection, at the east side of the page, the right side of the page, at Tennessee, the Tennessee intersection, as I mentioned, the curb on 6th Street will be moving to the south, but also we're proposing moving the curb of Tennessee to the east a little bit for a bulb out, and it still allows us for 2 lanes of traffic to fit through there, but for one thing, it better lines up with the southbound lane on the other side of the intersection to the north, and also it protects the on-street parking on Tennessee. But maybe one of the best things about it is it'll shorten the distance crossing Tennessee for the pedestrians. So instead of crossing, roughly 30 feet of traffic, they'll have to cross about 24. So that's just an added benefit of the bulb out there. Also on that corner, in that southwest corner of that intersection, there are 2 existing drainage curb inlets, and because we'll be moving the curb there, we'll have to reconstruct those inlets. We're not proposing any new storm sewer other than what it takes to tie those inlets back into the system. So there'll be some underground work there to do that, but it'll mostly, like I said, just be tying back in. So that alone, we're hoping won't be too many utility potential conflicts with existing utilities. But that might be a good time to mention we have sent the preliminary plans to the utility owners, and they're already beginning to look at it to evaluate whether there are any issues and whether they may need to potentially do any relocation. So that's being evaluated. Another thing to mention, sort of in the middle of the screen, there is one driveway that'll be affected directly by the project. And we're proposing to reconstruct that driveway all the way to the garage in order to make it. Oh,
Where it
sure.
is.
Sorry about that. So So right here, this is a driveway we'll be proposing to reconstruct to the garage. As I mentioned, the reason for that is the more of it we reconstruct, the flatter we can make it, and it'll be a better final product for the owner. So, and staff has already met once with the owner and gone over the project in the preliminary improvements. One other thing I'll mention before we go on to the next slide is there are three trees along the curb line of 6th Street that are going to need to be removed just because they're right where the new curb is going to be moving into. So the city staff will be contacting those owners to see if they desire having a tree replanted on private property. Those trees are in the right of way. The other thing I haven't mentioned, another improvement that will be occurring with this project is ADA upgrades at the intersections. So on the next slide, Ed's going to talk to you about the ADA improvements we are proposing.
So we are looking at the intersection of Ohio and 6th Street. This is the western intersection on the project. The first improvement I'd like to point out is that we are eliminating the crossing of 6th Street on the east side of this intersection, so we're eliminating this ramp and this ramp here. As far as ADA improvements, we designed each quadrant or each corner of this intersection to be fully ADA compliant from the ramp through the landing. And then we are going to replace 15 feet past the landing to tie into the existing sidewalk. You'll notice that on the northeast corner, on the northbound sidewalk, the existing sidewalk is brick. We will be going back with brick wherever there is existing brick. You'll notice on the southwest and southeast corners, there is a temporary easement. That was because we have lowered the sidewalk in these locations and needed the easement to tie back in. We are currently investigating placing a curb on the back of those sidewalks, which would allow us to eliminate the need for those temporary easements. The last thing I'd like to point out is that we have matched the alignments of the sidewalk ramps across each of the streets, which required us to place curbs in the sidewalk. You can see on this southwest corner and northwest corner of the intersections. We are now looking at 6th and Tennessee on the east side of the project. You'll notice that we also are removing the 6th Street crossing now on the west side of this Tennessee Street. We've removed the ramp here and here to cross 6th Street. Just like Ohio Street, we have designed the sidewalks to be ADA compliant from the sidewalk ramp through the landing and then tied in 15 feet past the landing. We also have existing brick on the northwest corner and northeast corner. We will be going back with the existing brick at those locations, or we will be going back with brick at those locations. We have temporary easements shown on the northeast and southeast corners of this intersection. We will not need these easements because those properties are owned by the city. There is a rock wall you will notice on the southwest corner, right adjacent to that sidewalk. We will not be disturbing that rock wall. However, we're planning to lower that sidewalk. And so we are looking at putting a curb on the back of that sidewalk to further protect that rock wall.
And then one more thing we wanted to show you on this. This is the proposed pavement marking. So I think this always is a good slide to look at. It's a good way to see what the final product will look like and picture what it'll be. As I mentioned earlier, from Ohio to Tennessee, it'll be 6 lanes wide because we'll be adding that new right turn lane. We've got a pretty steep taper right here on the west end, but we just wanted to maximize and have as much storage in that new right turn lane as possible. And then you can see that to the east of the Tennessee intersection, we're going to have new pavement marking, and that's in order to get our proposed lane lines to line back up with the existing lane lines. And so, well, we're going to taper that over that distance, which we've used a 40-mile-per-hour design to taper that back to the existing. And then one other thing I'm going to point out is anywhere we're showing new pavement marking on this illustration, we plan to mill and overlay that pavement. It'll make the new pavement marking go down a lot better, and the pavement can use the mill and overlay as well, just due to conditions. So those will be the limits of the mill and overlay. Is the limits of the proposed new pavement marking that you see on this page. Jonathan, is there anything else you wanted to bring up before we maybe take some questions, or?
No, I think you described it kind of detailed.
Okay. Well, that's our presentation, so if you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
Thank you. That was actually really thorough, and I appreciate it. There are questions for
I just
the PEC?
have a question about what's existing there now, because I don't think that's parking there that you're eliminating. I think that's a bike lane that tapers off there
Let's see here.
on 6th Street.
Yeah, let me go back to see if we can look at it from.
It's actually, it is designated for parking.
Oh, okay. The bike lane's back for.
There's
Yeah,
no,
not, okay,
no-
yeah, I'm just-
no bike
I'm
lane.
just confused about where the bike lane ended on 6th Street.
there is no bike lane on 6th Street. All of that that's marked out there is marked for parking.
Okay,
You rarely see people parking in this space.
right.
I think there's some history behind it, but it's been,
Or bicycling for that matter.
yeah.
Okay, I was just confused.
So, and that won't change west of Ohio Street. That parking will still remain.
And so the parking piece is a piece for the commission, because they'll have to remove that by ordinance, I believe, correct, Dave?
Yes, for the short segment here.
So that any action tonight would be helpful to get a recommendation that, yep, it's okay to take the parking off 6th Street.
Do you have any data on the parking? I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anybody park.
I've never seen it.
It's anecdotal that we do not see it either.
Related, please.
Why are we eliminating the ramps?
The sidewalk ramps help consolidate some of that foot traffic to one side of the intersection or another. There's 27,000 vehicles a day on 6th Street, and so it made sense to try to consolidate those crossings and hopefully make them a little bit more safe. When we talk to the landowner, he even walks a block away to get to the traffic signal before he crosses, so. Primarily for safety.
Well, I'll take my turn here. The question I have, the eastbound traffic, it's obvious what the effect will be, on 6th Street with people having the ability to turn right quicker. I'm just kind of wondering generally how you all see the intersection, the behavior of vehicles changing in both intersections in all directions. What's the effect going to be overall?
Well, ideally, it'd be operate a lot better. As you know, coming into downtown, everybody's sort of forced into that right lane. So you're going through traffic, and everybody that's through and turning right on Tennessee is all in the same lane. So there's 4,000 vehicles a day making that right turn. So that, not only benefits those right turners, it also reduces the queues for the people coming into downtown. One of the big benefits that we talked about with the property owner that actually they brought up with us was as they back onto 6th Street, it feels very safe, so that he was a little bit excited to have its own, turning out or backing out into a right turn lane as opposed to through 6th Street traffic. That seemed to be a benefit, that right turn traffic is probably slowing down to make that turn. And as well as the bulb out, I think will help slow traffic down around that turn so that as peds are crossing, not only is it a shorter movement, it's also a lower speed movement, that people have the attention span. We open up that ability to think about, is there a pedestrian there, if they're not also thinking about getting out of through traffic, if that makes sense. So.
What about the folks going westbound on 6th Street that turn left on Tennessee? That's usually a pretty tough turn to negotiate.
Yeah,
I would think it would change that somehow too.
I don't know that it'll make it worse. I don't
either.
I don't think the project necessarily makes it better either. I don't know what you do besides add another left turn lane there, which you don't have room to do.
Mhm.
So.
How many cars go through the intersection that way?
That go from westbound to southbound?
Yeah.
I'd have to look up the actual traffic study forecast numbers.
You said 4,000 are coming.
About 4,000 turn to the right, to go southbound. And there's about 27 to 30,000 on 6th Street itself. But
I imagine it's less than 4,000.
I'm sure it is by far, but Dave, are you looking it up?
Yeah, I've got it here, I just have it open.
Do we have any crash data for that intersection?
We do. We turned in crash data to KDOT as part of the Clink application.
Is it just the vehicles, or is it including the pedestrian and
The
bicycle?
accident data would include non-motorized as well. I don't believe there were any non-motorized accidents
Okay.
that I can recall.
Yeah, I don't recall any either. The westbound left turn lane movements, the volume we got from KDOT's 2,650 vehicles per day.
It's not insignificant, but about half of what the other is.
Two things come to mind. Did you do pedestrian counts
No.
around any of these?
No.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious what they would be. I don't think too many people walk around these intersections.
There are, I know the planning folks do ped counts once a year in various locations, so we have some idea that there's, anywhere from 100 to 150, per day on 6th Street and other parts of 6th Street, but I'm not aware of this particular area.
The dimensions on Tennessee and Ohio north of 6th Street, have they changed at all? I can't tell from the drawings.
No, they won't be modified with this project.
Yeah. Would bulb outs have been considered there? Would they make sense?
Well, the reason we're able to do it on Tennessee is we're actually changing the curb line, where to the north, we're just doing a mill and overlay. So we're not really affecting those intersections.
Right.
Any other questions?
So what is the change in the distance for the pedestrian crossing?
It says
Tennessee?
30 to 20 feet.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact, the beginning width, but I think it was about 30 feet, and then it'll be about 24. It'll be 24 when is the proposed width.
complete. That's a pretty good improvement.
On Tennessee, anyway.
Yes. At that one place.
Um,
I think you guys did a great job. I appreciate where you decided to make, kind of ask the pedestrians to cross. I mean, it feels like that's the right side if you're gonna eliminate one of those, crossing where the parks are. And then it looks like to the west, it's the shorter distance between the two. So, seems really well thought out.
If there are no other questions, we'd like to open it up for public comment. Thanks, guys.
Hello, Dale Slusser. I live at 67 Ohio, so just down the street. I just had a quick question. I'm wondering how much distance is there now between the curb and the sidewalk? Because psychologically, if it's a very close distance at the speed people are traveling, I think that could be very discouraging to pedestrians.
So the curb will move about 4 to 5 feet from the sidewalk. So that'd be similar to some of the other places we have on 6th Street further west, and is probably more than several other places around town, but it's a point well taken. The right turn lane traffic should be, slowing down to make the movement, of course, so that's somewhat of a mitigating factor, but.
That's 4 or 5 feet of green space?
Correct.
And please state your name and
Yes.
sign in at the podium.
Got it. Daniel Poole, 821 Ohio. What exactly was the distance change across Tennessee Street? Do we know that? That would be very interesting to me. How many feet did we narrow it by? At 7th and Tennessee also on the northwest corner, while we're bulbing out. I think it'd be a great time to do it. Just add that to the project. That's a intersection that we've been trying to.
Discussion on this.
I'm just kind of curious, Dave, in a minute, where did we leave 7th Street? That was on, I think, last spring, we had a contingent from Old West Lawrence in to discuss that, and can you
Yeah,
just
it's on
refresh
the
us?
list. I mean, we have that prioritization policy. It's been applied to that project like the other 200 and
Right.
odd projects on there. So it's on that list, but it's not one of the top scoring, which is why it currently hasn't been recommended in this last year's, in any of the current funding.
Well, I guess we ought to just pull that out and look at it.
Well, it's on the list. I mean, it's
I will.
eligible for funding. It's eligible for the neighborhood to fund it or find grant. I believe they've talked to CDBG about potential grant funding opportunities. Just like all the other projects on the list, we try to let the neighbors know that the city funds are limited and there's a lot to do with it. And it's not that it's not an important project, like a lot of other things, but it's a matter of small amount of money, a lot of work that needs to be done, and
On this one,
You
that's
know.
still a state route?
It is.
Okay, so that's different money from.
I guess the other piece of this is that because it's a KDOT project, that they give us money for geometric improvements here, that to extend the scope beyond that would be sort of above and beyond what the state is participating in.
And plus, will 6th Street stay state route for the foreseeable future? Is that being pulled off there?
Yeah, it'll maintain that Highway 40 designation, yeah.
Any other discussion? I have talked to Old West Lawrence some about that 7th Street. I know I don't think it fits in purview of this project, but when I talked to him, there are several policies in the works right now, the complete streets, the traffic calming policy, that I think that should be reexamined after, so after those policies are looked at, we'll go back and look at the prioritization policy to see if there's any changes in that need to be made, and I think that is the time to address the 7th Street. Because I think it's very important to have said this a lot. I think that intersection, 7th and Tennessee, is a really important intersection in town, and one of the neighborhoods that is most convenient to downtown and also gets a lot of foot traffic. So those are the things that need to be looked at before it goes back on the prioritization policy. But as Amanda said, if the neighborhood can find CBDG funding or whatever, that could still be done without that policy. So I'd love to see it done.
Is it simple enough to just add a bulb out?
No, the speeds are too high to just add a bulb out and mark a crosswalk, so we need some type of signalization, so it's a more significant project and
At
higher,
7th and
yeah,
Tennessee?
and a higher cost project than can easily just be done by in-house staff or something like that, so it's probably in the neighborhood of a $40,000 project.
$40,000 project, okay.
And we knew when we wrote the policy that when the bike plan was updated, we were gonna need to go back because it refers to a lot of things in the current bike plan. So we're wanting to wait until the new bike plan's in place, all these other new policies are in place, and then readjust as necessary one time with the non-motorized prioritization policy, because we know that probably by next summer, the bike plan should be done. So it's kind of on the schedule after that to look at that. By then, we should have a lot of other policy. This was kind of the first one, and now there's going to be a lot of other ones coming that have some impact on some of these, so.
Well, the feedback I would give the neighborhood would be, this group heard your folks pretty clearly last spring, and you can tell that we bring it up ourselves and are curious about it. So we will keep our eye on it, you know, at the right time. There are things, like Aaron described, in terms of revisiting policies, you know, that would affect it in a positive way, I think. So stay tuned, but it's not just falling off the table. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, you had mentioned we don't need get my, a motion for this, but you'd mentioned it might be useful to have a motion to,
Do you want a motion for the parking or no? I mean, I don't think we did one on Mass Street. We just say that it was supported.
Okay.
Just that it was supported by the commission. If there's any concerns.
all right. So no motion is needed on that. Go on to staff items.
Right. Pull up this memo here. I have two things. Let me hit this other one that's not on the agenda first, since I'm up here. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I didn't have it in there because this just went live a few days ago. This is the new website, I think I've mentioned a couple times, to report traffic safety concerns. We've worked with the MPO and the police department to get this up and running. And so this is for all those kind of requests that come to me or come to different people in the city about people speeding or not yielding or other enforcement concerns. We wanted to have one place to consolidate all those and send people to, so that we really get a feel for, is there certain areas that we're seeing multiple complaints? Is there certain violations we're seeing a trend with? So we thought if we can consolidate it to one place, we'll much easily be able to track that. So we started this website up, and it's lawrenceks.org/traffic-safety. Just went live a couple days ago, so we still need to get it linked on certain pages and things. Right now, you can really only get to it by typing that in or searching for it on our page, but we're going to make it more prevalent. But just so you guys are aware it's there, if you hear concerns, you can let people know this is now up and running. You're able to go in, you can click on the map, enter your location, and then you can kind of, what concern do you have? So it's failure to yield, not stopping at stop signs, speeding, those type of things. And then you can also put in there what days you see it occur most frequently, what times you see it occur most frequently, and any other information that can be helpful. And then you put your contact information there. And we'll be checking that. We'll kind of see how it works. We're planning just to, every few weeks, every month, check it, see what areas are there with police department, potentially, especially if we start seeing trends, let them know for enforcement. So as they have free time, these are areas they can focus some enforcement efforts. And also it just will help us with data collection, with what were the perceived problems. We can probably go out and do data. We're still going to see how this works and how we can implement it, but I think we can potentially use it to direct where we want to collect some data. So just want to let you know it's there. And you guys might hear complaints sometimes from people in the community. So yeah, so send them there, please. Any questions on that?
Such as damaged sidewalks, missing street signs, potholes, go to this other page.
Mm-hmm.
The other page doesn't mention damaged sidewalks at all. And given how much attention that's gotten in our community.
We talked about that today. So that's kind of different people dealing with that, but we did mention today in our staff meeting that probably needs to be something that a similar page is created for.
Okay.
So it was actually discussed in our afternoon engineers meeting. So we'll keep working on more. I think it's good to have a website to send people to because it eliminates the different people getting different information, and so we'll work on it.
So personally, I like the email that transportation at Lawrence KS. It just makes it easy. Like I've
Yeah,
sent
but-
you a couple things and I don't know how they get routed, but
The problem is then PD's not receiving the information. I'm having to go to PD. We were seeing PD was getting some info, I was getting some info, and it was really hard for us to, one, make a case that traffic enforcement's important, and these are the concerns that the community has. I think this helps with that because we're able to see, look at all these requests, and it's not just an email that somebody sent, so I think, and it also, if I'm on vacation and a ton come in, it's, that's only going to me right now. This is something that multiple people can log in, look at. I think we're trying to get away from everybody just sends an email to this person or that person, and that there's a location and that there's a program in place instead of a person in place.
Yeah.
So we're trying to push towards that. So this helps towards that.
I can't see too much what it says because my eyes are getting middle-aged. But does it say anything on there for folks? I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but is there something there that tells them how it's collected or what's done with it, so that when they put their stuff in, they know that something's happening?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
so once you submit it, there's basically I can't remember the exact wording, but it basically says, thank you, we will take this into account with enforcement strategies and future planning, future project planning or something along those lines. So it doesn't say, we're gonna call you and we're gonna have police out there tomorrow, but
Okay.
we gotta be careful
But
what
yeah, there is-
guarantees we
but
make.
it does say something.
It
about
it does give you some feedback, let you know, yes, we've received the form and this is the use for it. So,
Okay, great.
there's a small typo also.
is there?
Yeah, in the details section, the type of concern is spelled.
Oh, yes, it is wrong. There's a C
Missing
missing.
C.
Thank you. I'll get that fixed. So, anyway, I think it'll be more beneficial to have this in one place. We're really trying to work more closely with police, and something like this is going to help with that, I think.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're we want to see if there's trends and stuff, and that's really hard to do by email. This provides a mapping tool. This will map it, and you put it in there. It's connected to coordinates and GIS, so we can create maps out of it and see is there clusters of things. We can't do that with an email. So there's good reason for something like this, and I think it will be beneficial. So,
How are you going to promote this publicly? Any thoughts on that?
so most of this stuff is people call. I mean, we get plenty of concerns addressed about this regularly. So it's getting the information to our admins who answer the phones. Anybody, like I already gave this just the day it went live to somebody who was concerned about speeds on their street. So it's going to be a lot of, as people reach out the first time, it's here it is. Well, I think we're also going to put it in a city manager's report and make sure that they're aware of that. So I think right now it's going to be just training people as they call and as they email the first time to say, hey, we have this website, please enter the information there. So we're working on getting that info out to everybody. So everybody has, and also we've let PD know so they can do the same. So we're all trying to make sure we're routing it to the same place. So.
And is there any way to provide feedback on this form as it's being used by the public? Like, who would they contact if something's not working right?
Well, I mean, I guess, how do they do that with all of our forms, Dave? I think it's just the city hall email.
I don't know if our other forms have feedback on them. I don't think our pothole form does.
Okay. Just can imagine as it's something new to the public and you're directing people there, they might have their own ideas about what should be done with it.
Is it good with all search engines, or is there one better than the other?
Don't know, I haven't tried it all. We'll see. I mean, I would assume it'd be similar to all of our other forms and website, because it's using the same format as all of our other current forms. That was more just informational, so you guys are aware and can direct people to that. Are we ready for this?
Yeah.
So as you all are aware, the HandsFree Policy was brought up, I think before I even started, I believe it was June 2017. A resident came and spoke to Transportation Commission, City Commission. It's been something when I started, I was asked to look into. We've reached out to Riley County, Manhattan. I had a little trouble getting some feedback, so our Adam Heffley with the police department kind of worked on this with me, and we've got some information from them about kind of what their current ordinance is and what results they've seen. The information we got was a little disjointed, and I got a couple of years of traffic data, and I got a couple of years of kind of citation data. They didn't really align very well. So, but I spoke to them and asked, can you speak to if this ordinance has had any effect on crash rates? And they really can't correlate the two. There was a news report, I believe, that was shown at the time. This was presented by the member of the public, and there was a person who said, well, there's been a 20% reduction in crashes, but a lot of other things have changed. And they've seen a reduction in crashes, but it really didn't correspond to the time of when this was put in place. So it's very hard to correlate those. They've issued 830 citations between 2015 and 2017 there. Approximately 60% of those were actually for what the current state law is, which is the texting violation versus the hands-free. So we talked about that here. We also looked at the data here, and I believe we've issued 88 citations since the start of 2017 for the texting law. And so talked to the police department, kind of had some conversations with our representative there and with the police chief, and there's a lot of initiatives, I'm sure, as you're following everything going on with the city commission and with the police department and all the things we've talked about we're working on with them. And this really just wasn't one that they felt would add a lot of value at this moment with all of the other effort that we have and with the workload that we have. I think it's something that in the future, if we can get our enforcement where we need it to be, and we can really be enforcing the texting law, the yielding to pedestrians, speeding, we're really focused on that at this moment. So I think they felt like adding another law to enforce really wasn't going to add a lot of value at this moment. So the staff recommendation right now would be to hold off on this and kind of let these other things play out. Let's work on our traffic safety program and stuff, and maybe revisit this in the future. So staff just isn't in a position, unless directed by city commission, to take on another thing that really isn't being supported by one of the key departments that would have to support this. So that's our update.
Can you just remind me, like, Manhattan, theirs goes to, like, you can't talk on a cell phone?
Yes,
So-
that's free.
So yeah, they have a hands-free additional. There's still, a lot of police department, their concern is, it's very difficult to enforce any of it because there's a lot of outs, even in Manhattan's. It's, well, if you're looking at a map, or if you're looking at a weather alert, or if you're, trying to report a crime. So there's so many outs that it gives people a lot of go to court and say, well, I was looking at Waze, was telling me there was an accident ahead, and I was looking at that. They have some concerns about that because it's really hard to enforce, and sometimes without getting, I think, for them to get access to somebody's phone to prove they were texting is, it's not really easy to do. So I think the enforcement part of it is a little bit of a concern. Also, they've stated it's very hard to tell. They said the easiest way to do it is with bike patrol, because you can go up right against somebody and see in their car. In a car, it's very hard for them to see. So I think just with all of that right now, and like I said, all the other initiatives we're working on, we think there's some other things that will have a lot more impact, and that this is something that once we get some other programs in place, maybe it's something we can build upon those programs with, an ordinance like this, but they just weren't in a position to be supportive of it at this time.
So the state law doesn't cover, it literally only covers texting back and forth? So you could be using Google to search out something.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. It's pretty limited, the state law. I think it might cover like searching on Google I can't remember how it's worded exactly, but there is a lot of exemptions if you read the state law. I mean, I can pull it up even.
It seems like mapping would be the most obvious. Yeah, I was trying to find this. So it's hard to imagine how you'd have a law.
I think a lot of cars that they make nowadays, most of them,
They make with the built-in GPS and the hands-free.
Mhm.
So as people upgrade, they're gonna be having that feature on their car.
And right now, is that illegal to use the hands-free?
You can dial your phone, that's legal, to dial a number, and that's still legal in Manhattan, if you're dialing a number. So, it's a lot of, they have to really catch you texting, and it has to be proven for it to really stand up. Trying to find where that was at. I can't find it.
Is there anything that just gets to more broadly distracted driving? Like, that's not tied to the technology, but just, if I'm driving and I'm busy gabbing, Donna and I are having a conversation and I'm just watching her, like, does that against the law?
I believe, I was just reading our traffic ordinances this week. And I believe we have a distracted driving ordinance, so if you hit somebody and it's just you weren't paying attention, you can be ticketed for that. And that's right in our city code.
I was reaching for that French fry that I tried.
Yeah.
Of course, I can't
I
find
mean,
it.
it just seems like there's so many situations
Swatting a bee.
where people are not attending to the
Oh my
road
gosh,
in
they're
front of
so
them.
distracted.
Can't find it
People
on
are.
the board up here, of course.
Well, I think on the state statute, it's write, send, or read a written communication.
Is that how it's worded.
Mhm.
What was that, David?
Write, send, or read a written communication from a wireless communication device.
Still doesn't answer the mapping question.
Mhm.
Is that reading
Yeah.
the map?
Is that considered a written
Well, then, what are all the
That would-
exemptions in there? There's quite a few.
Yeah, person who reads, selects, or enters a telephone number, name, to make a phone call, someone who receives an emergency, traffic or weather alert message. Yeah, there's a whole list of them here.
Amber,
Person receiving a message related to the operation or navigation of the motor vehicle.
I think it was in here under. There's something in our code though, I just reviewed this page by page, our traffic code recently, about the inattentive driving, and if you hit somebody, you can be ticketed for that. Just have to find exactly where it is, 'cause it's a pretty long section. Because one of the things I'm working on and why I was doing this was we're trying to simplify the code, so I'm actively working on that right now it's one of the things we're working on. To try to make it so we can be a little more responsive to other concerns.
I would think the more flexible the code is, the more, just stand the test of time. I mean, even if you're doing something that seems legitimate by exception, like I'm looking at a map, that may not be appropriate. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
so
You're driving.
you have to be able to attend to the road and what's in front of you, so I can't imagine getting that specific without creating some really, odd situation that somehow, well, that wasn't a violation of the law.
Yeah, and one thing I was not able to get, and I tried in Manhattan, was kind of the rate that these were actually held up in court.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Be interesting.
So, but you can pull up on theirs. They've kept it pretty much the same as the state law, except for expand it to being that you can't be holding a phone to your ear. So they still say this, that you can dial a number and all of those things per theirs, so.
Short of getting into the weeds from my perspective, did Nicole Allensworth go to the city commission? It seems like she did do a public comment.
She did.
And did it go anywhere
There
at
was,
that point?
I could not find anything where we were directed for any specific.
Yeah,
It was just
Action.
received by the city
Yeah.
commission.
right. Well, my second question, has anybody followed up with her?
Dave spoke to her on Friday.
Yes, I spoke with her on Friday, and
Did you? Okay.
we've been in contact with her over the last year. She's very interested in seeing something happen. She's very active and has I believe, a petition on change.org, and she's been, I think, lobbying at the state house too, for the state law, state statute. But we let her know it was on the agenda for tonight, and I thought she was going to try to make it. Obviously, I passed along her correspondence to you guys, but she's still very interested in the subject.
Well, is this the kind of thing that hypothetically, if the commission said somebody needs to do something about this, it would end up here, right? Or would it end up with the PD?
Well, it would need to be, if the commission wanted to have a discussion here, they would need to refer it to the Transportation Commission. But ultimately, I think the challenge in the ordinance lies with the enforcement, which is under
Yeah.
the police department. And so that whole discussion would not need to occur here, I don't think. But, the direction needs to come from the city commission to do anything other than what we've done today, which is just provide some feedback on our discussions with the police department on the challenges. And we will let Nicole know that if she wants to pursue it further, she can go to the city commission.
Well, this is the kind of thing that for me, it would be a meaningful thing to take on for someone at some point. I certainly understand the priorities that Amanda laid out here. What am I trying to say? I think I'm trying to say I wish there was something we could do about it, you know. And I don't know what authority, what position this group is in to really do anything about it. Certainly on our own or without the city commission saying something.
Well, I guess if your question is what authority, I don't know if you have any authority to direct
Yeah.
us to do anything, but, yeah, if it's something that, you think is important, that we need to refer to the city commission to, just to let them know it's still an issue that, the board thinks it's important to keep discussing, we can do that.
Well,
It's-
I don't know that I would be opposed to that. I'd like to see what other people think. You know, this is one of those aggravating things in life that everybody deals with, and it's like, well, what are we gonna do about it?
I think the key is, though, if we don't have the support of the police department, who's the ones enforcing it, it's really, it puts us, it's a struggle, because we have a lot of things we're working on.
Well,
And if
I'm
we
not
don't have that key
suggesting that we,
support,
I'm not
it's
suggesting
hard.
that we, you know, direct staff to do something, you know. I'm just suggesting that it be communicated in some general way to the city commission that we talked about it, and it might be something that we keep in front of ourselves. That's all, you know. I don't think it's going to be a directive or something that we do.
We planned on taking the same report. right, to
Yeah.
city commission.
Yeah, we made, well, maybe appropriate for this would be to,
Great.
we'll plan on doing that.
Discussion about the traffic safety program and maybe the law enforcement component of that. I mean, if this really comes down to what's the best way to deploy law enforcement resources, there's some things I could imagine might be more useful in our community than doing a sting on whether people are texting and driving. I mean, yielding to pedestrians comes to mind.
Stopping at
Speed,
all.
speed comes to mind. You know, the 7th Street crossing, if people knew that it's against the law for them to go past a pedestrian that's waiting to cross, I mean, people just don't know that. That could stand, you know, I think, do a lot more to change some driver behavior than texting. So I'm not saying it's not a problem, but if there's a law that already covers any case of distraction while driving, then it's really not an issue of having the right law. It's that law enforcement isn't prioritizing this among all the things that they need to address. So if they are going to be addressing something about traffic safety, it should be part of a bigger discussion about what's the best way to deploy law enforcement. And maybe there are some targeted, highly visible campaigns around texting and driving as a safety concern, and they do once a year, you know, some enforcement to kind of drive home that point. You know, yielding is something you can also approach that way. You just make a big deal of it, and you pull people over and you give them a warning, you know, reminding them that it's against the law for them not to yield to pedestrians. You do that once or twice a year. So it may not take a lot of effort, but it sends the message. And maybe texting and driving could be the same thing. You let them know that distracted driving is against the law.
I mean, the texting and driving is illegal by the
The
state law.
texting is,
I think the peculiar thing on this, I think the hands-free was just an effort to make that easier to enforce. If you saw somebody with the device in their hand, you know, okay, you're supposed to be hands-free. But I think the Manhattan experience is, it's not, it may have been attempted to make it easier to enforce, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it still has all the same exemptions.
Yeah.
You can dial a number, all those things. I mean, and I think, Charlie, what you're saying is exactly what the point we're getting to is this traffic safety program, we're really looking at having enforcement be a key piece of that. And there's going to be conversations with that discuss what's the important things to enforce. And this the current law may actually be one of those things that we say, we're going to target enforcement this month on this. or we're gonna target enforcement this month on pedestrians or bicycle safety. We're gonna try to build that into that new traffic safety program. And, you know, speaking with Captain Heffley, it was something he said, hey, maybe we do one where we try to just enforce the current law for a certain, you know, amount of hours. And we kind of see the response from that. So I just think that, you know, this law, and we're not saying it's not important and it's, you know, not probably causing some traffic issues, some accidents and things, but there's a lot of things we're working on right now, and we kind of want to incorporate the current law into that and build on it maybe later as we've made some progress in these other things with something like this, but.
Are we doing a study session on the new policy?
Yes, I'm gonna try to bring, something actually, because we've got our next couple study sessions booked up. I'm gonna try the November regular meeting to have a discussion, not for action, but just because of our other meetings are kind of booked, to have a discussion about where we see the new policy going. But it's gotta get through, city manager's office and legal, in time for me to do that. So that's the goal, is that at the November meeting, we have, a discussion, kind of at a high level of where we see the program going, the new program. Also hoping that at that same meeting, I could bring our thoughts on those ordinance changes for the signage and stuff, trying to make it be a lot more flexible for city staff to be responsive to things by removing some of the requirements in the code. So that's the plan.
Thanks for doing the research on this. Sounds like it was a long process.
Yeah, it's just,
Like
I think like everybody's got a lot going on, so it's hard sometimes to get that data, but got we could.
All right, we're ready for commission items. Update from Evans on Complete Streets Subcommittee.
I'm going to defer to Amanda. I believe we're in the legal review, and you can share with us what you think the timeline might be for that.
Yeah, we're hoping that's the October study session, is to go over the Complete Streets policy. Legal has had it for a few weeks, and we're kind of pushing to get that out of legal and into your guys' hands for review. Then I think city manager's office would like for us to take that along with the traffic safety kind of overview and the ordinances all to a future city commission study session. So we're trying to get those through this group sometime October, November, all of those, so that they can go to city commission as one kind of package.
Okay. Update from Commissioner Hurt on PTAC.
Yeah, Wednesday before last, while you guys were having a study session, the city and KU had interviews with 2 possible contractors to the next 3 or 5 years of contracting for bus service for KU and the city. Commissioner Hall team was there for KU, I was there, but it was a committee of about 8. Right now, but the interviews are still being scored. They gave presentations, and they have till this Monday to provide information back to complete the RFPs, and then we'll score at that time, so it's still up in the air. But it was MV and it was First Transit. MV's the current provider. And we really can't say anything right now, but it was close. So it still could be either one.
Any questions about that? Update from Commissioner Schartz on the MPO bike plan update.
I don't have a lot new to report. The November study session will be a meeting to discuss the proposed changes in the bike plan. I think they're working on they'll have kind of a preliminary draft or proposal at that time, but then talk about some of the issues. They are continuing to review the survey that they completed at the end of August. That was the public input on that. And so I guess we'll be hearing a lot of that when they present at the November study session. Is there anything that you know of that's, I don't think they've had any.
I believe they're getting ready to release their second survey soon.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know more on timeline. I know it's soon. They've been working on drafting the questions for that kind of follow-up second survey, so that, you should see that published pretty soon, made public.
Okay.
I forgot, let me give you one update too, just so you know, I've got October 16th right now. I'm planning on the Bike Boulevard project going to City Commission for award of the contract to Alta CFS. CFS is a local firm, who is a sub-consultant to Alta. So got a scope and fee from them and working with them this week to finalize that and get that on the agenda for award. So after award, we'll look at a schedule and we'll let you guys know what we think for public meetings and different things.
Great, thank you.
I was about to ask that question, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, next study session is October 17th at 3:30.
I'm not going to be available for that session.
Are there any other commission items or need to be mentioned? All right, then we're adjourned. Right, we need a motion for that?
No.